Hey Mainers, it's Ian from Maine Newsroom. I'm here on North Haven at Nebo Lounge. I'm here with Hannah Pingree, the newly minted candidate for governor. Hannah, thanks very much for your time.
It's great to be here. Thank you for trekking out here on a hot day and hopefully had a good ferry ride. It's a little cooler.
Nebo Lounge, you used to work here.
Yeah, so this was literally an old falling down summer home right next to where I grew up, where my mom lived. My parents got divorced. And my mom went in with a couple of neighbors and decided, let's turn this thing into a place where the community can gather. So literally with my siblings and some other friends, we renovated this place. And when I say we renovated, like we painted it, we turned it into an inn and restaurant. And then I got to spend at least 10 years helping to run this business. I'm super proud of it. It's a place that employs a lot of people. It's actually now being run by Angie, who used to be our bartender. She's running it as her own business. But, you know, I think I live in a tiny town, small businesses, employing people, bringing people to the island. I mean, that's how you make this community work. And it's also a great place to eat. So come hang out at Nebo Lounge. Support Angie.
What other jobs have you done in your life?
I did a lot of jobs on North Haven. I ran our sustainable housing organization, building year-round housing for people. I actually worked on a capital campaign and then worked at the community center downtown. I have worked in both politics and worked in this community for literally my whole life. That's sort of what I've done. It's what I've done, even when I'm off the campaign trail. I did spend a couple of years working for a national coalition that was trying to take toxic chemicals out of children's products. So that was sort of the only national fight I've ever taken on. Everything else has been about my community and about my state. Okay, so it's a Friday. You are at Nebo Lounge, and there's a voter you haven't talked to yet. Yeah. What's your pitch? My pitch is, Maine has some huge challenges right now. People can't afford the cost of housing. We're a state where we desperately need young people, but it's too expensive. We're a state where healthcare is too expensive, and we're really worried about our rural healthcare system even staying afloat. And so my pitch is Maine needs a lot. We're a wonderful state. We have incredible people, but we need to invest in our people and our economy to be successful in the long term. So I'm somebody who's had the opportunity to work on future-looking issues. I'm a mom of 2 kids. And my pitch is, I know how to get things done. I have worked with Republicans, Democrats, and independents as Speaker of the House. I have passed bipartisan budgets. I have built housing. I have helped communities recover from storms. We've got some big challenges, but we got to work together to get things done. And I think that's what Maine people want. I think one of the things that people assume is that candidates are all about themselves and that the sell is why I'm the best. Yeah. But there's usually a first layer, which is getting people to care about the election at all. Yeah. Getting people to care about the government and that they should participate. How do you get people over that hump? I think Maine is a state where actually people do care about their communities. They care about their neighbors. I mean, I grew up in this little town where actually when I was in school, we used to go to town meeting because it used to be on a Tuesday. Our entire school went there. And I think a lot of Maine people, I mean, I've served on my school board. Many people in Maine have served on a local board. I think people do care about their community, their neighbors, and the future of the state. And I do think people care about the future of Maine. And politics is complicated. They don't want it to be negative and nasty. But do they care about housing their kids can afford? Do they care about decent schools? Do they care about healthcare? Yes. I find that when you talk about issues and you keep it positive, people want to be engaged. They want a positive vision for Maine's future. They want somebody who will fight for them. And they want to know that they can afford to stay here. And I think if you talk about those issues, people want to be engaged. We saw that in the primary. I certainly, in going out, already starting this general election, I think that's what people want. Just this week, the first 2 polls since the end of the primary came out. And in the first poll, you were up 14 points on Bobby Charles. What was your reaction to that poll? We will take nothing for granted. I mean, yes, it's nice to be in the lead in our first poll. That I think it shows that Democrats are motivated, but a lot of independents, they are concerned about the direction of the country. They're concerned about Republicans, and they are in favor of what we are out there talking about, which is lowering costs for families. So yes, great to have a positive poll, but I'm going to take nothing for granted. We're going to work really hard to win this campaign, to talk to Democrats, independents, and Republicans in every single county in the state. That's what we did in the primary. Traveled to every 16 counties. We did over 400 events. We're going to keep doing that, showing up and talking about the issues that matter. Were you surprised to see Rick Bennett get just 8% in that poll? I mean, I would say I think that people are concerned about the direction of this country. I think that people, they have seen in the past 3-way races where that's how we elected Paul LePage twice. I think that I'm somebody who has worked closely with Republicans and independents. I've worked a lot on issues in a bipartisan way. And I think that independents know that they can trust me to be somebody who shows up for them. I am not a partisan person. I am somebody who has dug in my community. I have worked across the aisle in the legislature, and I think that we're going to see a lot of support from independents. I will even say in the Democratic primary, you covered this. We had huge turnout among Democrats, but a lot of independents showed up and they voted in the Democratic primary. I think that's because they don't like the direction that this president is taking the country. I think they trust Democrats to get things done, and they know I'm somebody who will show up for people regardless of party. Senator Bennett, I mean, I've gotten along with him. I've worked with him in the legislature, but he has chaired the Republican Party. He was a Trump elector. I think he's been a part of this party and he sees what this president is doing. I think the Republicans are not a party that is electable anymore in the statewide, and I think he realized to win, he needed to change parties. He's run twice for federal office as a Republican. I think he realized he could not be elected in the primary as a Republican, and so he did it because it was opportunistic.
What's your take on Bobby Charles? Have you guys ever talked?
I've met Bobby Charles at a couple events. I shook his hand as they were leaving the News Center debate. I'll always be friendly to people. I will always show up and be nice. But my take is, he posts 5 times a day, a different meme of me, an AI-generated image. Sometimes I look young, sometimes I look old. Sometimes I'm a baby, sometimes, God knows. So I think he's somebody who will just throw out information, even if it's not true. I think he will just, put garbage out on the internet. And I don't think that's what Maine people want. They want a campaign that is about issues. It is about Maine's future and how do we get things done? How do we lower costs for families? I don't see Bobby Charles talking about that. I don't think he's going to appeal to voters for that reason. And I honestly think a lot of the garbage he's putting out there is unacceptable to Maine people.
So I was going to ask about the AI generated content. Are you concerned about that? Do you think the AI is getting so confusing that it could become deceptive to people? Could it be militarized?
AI is a big topic. It's a big topic for the next governor. I mean, what is AI going to mean for the future of jobs and our kids? So we could go big, and I think the next governor is going to need to really tackle AI and its implications for Maine. But in terms of elections, I don't think we should be using AI-generated images in elections. I don't think we should be using AI-generated videos. Bobby Charles is doing all of those things. I think they are misleading to voters. I will not do that in my campaign, and I don't think he should either.
So you were in the state government for 6 years.
Yep.
In the governor's office.
Policy, innovation. I've just taken to calling it the Office of the Future because it's a long name.
Tell me about the type of work you did day to day.
The former Governor Paul LePage got rid of this thing called the State Planning Office, the office that did long-term planning for the state of Maine, looking at issues like the economy and housing. And so Governor Mills wanted to bring it back in this new form. So I got to spend 6 years running this Office of the Future. And it was a great job. I mean, I think the most important thing I did is I put together a really good team on housing, on climate, on opioids, on children's issues. And we were able to actually move the needle on things like climate. We installed more heat pumps than any other state. We helped communities recover from huge storm events. Gordon Smith leading on opioids, we have brought down the overdose rate. So, we put together policies and plans and, big summits and those kinds of things. But more importantly, we got things done. And I will say it was delving into those issues that made me realize an issue like housing, we have to go much bigger. We are making progress, but it is not enough. And so, I learned about the inside of state government, the executive branch a little more deeply. I got to really work on some issues that I think matter, but it made me motivated for the kinds of things we need to do for Maine's future, which we need to go bigger in a variety of areas.
Isn't that one of the kind of weird double-sided coins of working in government? You could be blasted for having the experience, but also having the experience is how you know how to get the best of something.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly people, you're establishment, you've been in government, but you're electing the governor of the state of Maine. And I mean, for me, my experiences, I was Speaker of the House. I worked with Republicans and Democrats. I've chaired my local school board. I've worked in the executive branch. And certainly people should hold me accountable for the results on issues that I worked on. But more importantly, I learned how to get things done. And the job of governor, you got to put together a team on day one. You got to put forward a budget on day one. And you actually have to know how to get things done. And whether it's keeping our hospitals open, improving our schools, building housing, I've learned what you should do and shouldn't do, and I know how to go bigger. And that's really one of the things that motivates me to run. And I do think people in Maine, they want a governor who's experienced. I mean, this is a big job. It's an important state. People care about Maine. And I don't think they want to elect somebody who doesn't know what they're doing.
Talking about climate and energy, what was your reaction when you saw that President Trump was not only trying to shut down offshore wind, but was paying these companies federal taxpayer dollars to shut these things down?
I'm disappointed on what President Trump has done across the board on climate. I mean, he has pulled us out of the Paris Accords. Every other country in the world is involved in them. He has tried to shut down onshore wind, offshore wind, solar. We're sitting here on, very, very hot day for Maine. The climate is changing. It's going to impact Maine. Investing in clean energy in a way that creates jobs in Maine is a huge opportunity. So whether it's shutting down offshore wind and literally using taxpayer dollars, just wasting it, it's absurd. I think offshore wind is going to be a long ways off in Maine's future. But onshore wind right now, President Trump is trying to make it more difficult to build wind power in Aroostook County. That's a way in which we can lower energy costs and produce good paying jobs. I think we have to get these things done despite this president, and that's part of the reason why I'm running.
If you're elected governor, you will face this decision on a semi-daily basis. Do I fight the administration? Do I work with them? Or do I keep my head down? How do you think you will approach that decision?
I think every day the question is going to be, is this good for Maine people? And, we were following this housing bill that was just happening in Washington. And President Trump said, let's take private equity out of the housing market. And I said, great, let's actually get that done. I will say this is a bill that Congress has now passed by huge, overwhelming bipartisan margins. And now the president refuses to sign it. But on a daily basis, I will say, is this a good thing for Maine people? We need the federal government to invest in Medicaid. We need the federal government to invest in our education system. And we'll partner if they want to be a partner. But there are a lot of issues. Reproductive health care, protecting LGBT Mainers, protecting immigrants in Maine, in which we are going to have to fight back. And I will be ready to work with our Attorney General, our Secretary of State, work with other governors across this country to stand up for people's constitutional rights, to stand up for the rights of Maine people. And I think that's one of the things that I heard loud and clear people want the next governor to do. I hear this from independents. I even hear this from some Republicans.
We are right now in the middle of a second surge in ICE activity and immigration enforcement here in Maine. Last year, there were a number of bills proposed to try to limit the way Maine law enforcement could work with ICE and to limit what ICE could do while they're here. What type of bills would you want to arrive on your desk if you're elected governor?
I think part of it is about implementing the laws that have just been put in place. I think not having the state government, our state police collaborate with ICE, I will certainly enforce that law. I think preventing ICE from, interrupting people, going to school, going to court. That is something that we're going to actually have to enforce. I think that ICE should not be able to be masked. I think they should show their IDs. I think there are more things that we could do to actually protect Maine people. But I think it's also going to be about using the court systems and pushing on our federal delegation to not be funding this kind of unconstitutional activity, to ensure that the legal immigrants in our state actually have the rights that they deserve. And so those will be the kinds of things that I will look to do in the state of Maine, but also to partner with other states and governors to actually ensure that we can actually make change at the federal level where we really need to rein in ICE.
Are you concerned about the spread of surveillance tech nationally and in the state, right? You've got automatic license plate readers, Flock, that frankly are deploying quite rapidly throughout the state. Is that something that needs to be brought in check through legislation?
Yes. I think Maine people are worried about big tech generally. And I think we all, for a long time, okay, sure, I'll accept the cookies. They're following us. They're listening to me on my phone. People started to accept that. But I think we've even realized, with some of these ICE raids, Maine people are being followed. They knew people's phone numbers. They knew people's, they could take their license plate and immediately know who people are. They were violating our basic ability to have privacy. And I don't think that's something that Maine people want. We're actually a pretty libertarian state. We want to be left alone. And I think things like Flock technology that is using both AI and surveillance is incredibly dangerous. I think it is infringing on our basic constitutional rights. So as governor, I would look to rein that in. I would look to ban it. And I think that Maine people would be strongly in favor of those kind of protections. I think that people don't want to be followed. They don't want their municipalities to be following them. I don't think they want private corporations to be following them. So I think it's really those very strict guardrails that will protect Maine people.
Those flock cameras, those license plate readers are all powered by AI. And AI takes data centers. You would have signed the data center moratorium bill that was passed by the legislature this year. Obviously, a new bill will have to be passed next year. What would you want to see in that bill to address data centers going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I have said that I would, on day one, enact a moratorium until we have very strong safeguards in place. I think we want to be a state that is really protecting our communities, our environment, but also our electricity ratepayers. We've seen what's happened in states like Virginia and Texas. We've seen a huge proliferation of these centers, and electricity rates have gone through the roof, water quality has gone down, and communities have not benefited with really taxes or jobs that they were promised. I want to have some of the strongest laws in the country to protect our communities, to ensure that any data center that is built has to produce its own clean power, it can't impact ratepayers, and it has to have the highest environmental standards.
Some of the towns that do want data centers want it for jobs and they want it for tax revenue. There are a number of cities, a number of towns, including my own, whose school districts had to lay off teachers this year, closed a school. Your plan for education includes paying teachers more and creating a fund for infrastructure to improve, modernize old buildings, build new ones. Do you think there is a funding crisis in the state for education, and how would you propose the state navigate that?
I think there are funding challenges at the local level for schools, municipal government, for infrastructure. I also think there's a desperate need for property tax relief. You know, the doubling of home prices since 2020 means lots of people's homes are worth more, and they are now paying higher property tax bills. So it's this tension that it's not going to be an easy one to solve. And I think it is about giving communities more tools to actually raise revenue from things like, you know, a regional local option sales tax, especially on tourists, things like a hotel tax. But I also think it's about property tax relief and delivering government more efficiently. And, you know, Maine, we have 485 towns. A lot of our small towns are really struggling to find workers, to find code enforcement officers. There are ways in which we can make government more efficient. I think that there are schools that are really struggling and they need more tools. And I think it is about state government and municipal leaders and regional leaders partnering to find those solutions. And it is about putting some revenue on the table so we can relieve property taxes, but there are also other things we need to do. What does Maine have? We have a lot of people who come to visit Maine in the summertime. We have talked about a proposal to tax second homes owned by non-Maine residents at a higher rate. I think that is actually a way to provide some relief statewide. We need to make sure that some of those funds could be delivered to rural communities that don't have those same number of second homes. But I think we need to look at those. We're a huge rural state with a lot of infrastructure, a lot of schools. To actually pay for them, I think we're going to have to talk about how we rebalance the way in which we tax Maine people. And people need relief. I mean, middle and low income people are really struggling right now. And I think providing that property tax relief, but also income tax relief, both are going to be important.
Do you think there's enough support for an approach like that in the legislature right now?
You know, when I talk to Republicans, they live in these same communities, whether they're coastal or inland. I think everyone wants to provide property tax relief. Our Constitution is pretty rigid in the way in which property taxes are assessed, the way in which you assess for commercial and residential and second homes. So, you know, this is an issue where you're going to have to figure out how to bring people together. And that's something I have done well throughout my career. And it's not just saying, here, it's my way or the highway, but bringing Republicans to the table from the legislature, bringing municipal leaders from around the state and saying, we're facing challenges. We're facing challenges paying for our state's infrastructure. How can we collaborate to both deliver relief to Maine people, but also ensure that people have the services they need, kids have the education they need? And it's going to be a big project, but I actually think Republicans and Democrats could get it done because, you know, Maine people are feeling the pain in the same ways.
Unlike a lot of content creators, I read my comments.
Yeah.
It's not always the best, but nonetheless, in the
Don't
videos,
read the comments is what they tell politicians, but I do.
That's right.
Sometimes.
In the videos about this race, there are two consistent knocks against you.
Yeah.
The first is that you would be a continuation of the Mills administration.
I mean, certainly I am proud of the work that I was able to do with Governor Mills on issues like housing and climate and kids issues. But I learned through that we need to go bigger. And I wouldn't do everything in the exact same way. I had said very clearly, I disagree with the Governor Mills on certain issues like tribal sovereignty, some labor issues. I'm running with a bigger and more bold agenda. I think I'm looking to Maine's future and a lot of change that we are already seeing in how we do things like bring down costs for Maine families, ensure that we're a state where we actually have the housing that allows young people to stay here. So I've learned from that time working for Governor Mills, but I'm gonna bring a different approach in which we go bigger and bolder on certain issues.
The second knock is your last name, that you're Congresswoman Pingree's daughter. You're Nepo. Is that a fair criticism?
My first campaign I was ever involved in, I watched my mom run for the state senate when I was 14 years old. I knocked on 1,000 doors from her. I was very proud when she took on the prescription drug issues. She bought that industry as Senate Majority Leader in the state of Maine, and she won. And so I am proud of her. I think she's proud of me. I was elected in 2002 to the Maine legislature. That's the year she lost to Susan Collins. The year I was elected Speaker of the House was the year she was elected to Congress. So in many ways, I think, we're two women showing that women can be actively engaged in politics. I think that Maine people judge me for who I am and my record and my ability to get things done. And they have respect for my mom, but I think they look at us as two different people who are trying to be involved in public service and make good things happen for the state of Maine.
Cost of living is obviously the most important issue in this election. It sounds like the most important levers you think are housing and healthcare.
I think housing and healthcare are huge cost drivers for Maine people, but they are also sort of these fundamental things that make it possible for our economy to grow, make it possible for young people to stay here. So I think they're both issues where we need to bring down costs, but issues where if we don't solve these challenges, nothing else is possible. I mean, I will say the federal government has actually had a pretty big say recently in drivers of costs in the state of Maine. This president has caused inflation in energy prices, inflation in healthcare prices. And I'm hoping that we see some change down in Washington, because I don't honestly think Maine people can afford President Trump. His totally unchecked agenda any longer.
Let's move on to the lightning round.
Oh, no.
All right. What is the most Maine thing about you?
God, you're going to really challenge me with these. I'm an independent islander and I don't take any shit.
What's your most controversial Maine opinion?
Oh, God. This one I'm also getting crap for. Moxie tastes more like cough syrup than cola.
Literally my next question. Does Moxie taste good?
My sister loves it. I'll just tell you, my sister loves it. We've been arguing about it for years. And I do drink it from time to time, but it's taking my medicine.
Do you spoil your dog?
Oh my God. I got a black lab and I know there are a lot of rules, but I will say I woke up in the middle of the night and he was literally on both of my legs. So I hate to say the answer is yes.
Is the best Wilco album Yankee Hotel Foxtrot or A Ghost is Born?
My husband would say A Ghost is Born and I would say Yankee Hotel Foxtrot.
Should Maine students be required to learn to drive stick shift?
Hell yeah. That's I learned at stick shift, and I don't know if there aren't many of them out there, but if you're gonna drive a tractor or dump truck, you're gonna need to know stick shift.
Is the lobster roll a sandwich?
No.
Is a hot dog?
A sandwich? No, not a sandwich.
I used to play basketball. If we went over to a court right now and took 10 shots, how many 3-pointers would you make?
Oh, 3-pointers. 10 shots, I think I could make 3 or 4.
Okay. Still got it?
My daughter is really good at basketball. She's got it way more than I ever did, but I'll say I got it good enough. I have the competitive instinct. More like if we were under the basket, I'd box you out.
Fair enough. And then finally, the best thing about your kids?
They love each other, and I think that they're good people. That's the most important thing, raising kids, that they're good people who care about their neighbors.
Anna Pingree, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you. So fun. Thanks for coming to the island.